So yeah, I was saying, I had to go take care of something real quick. So I was saying that the idea that they had, and see, that's the thing about sometimes you could be almost too old. You know what I'm saying? You're too far away. You're too removed. You know, the generation my pops had grew up with or whatever, the idea of school, yeah, that might have worked at that time, but this is, man, you're dealing with post crack era. You know what I'm saying? You're not dealing with you raising me in a world that world worked for you decades ago. That's almost 3.5+ decades ago. You know, or not 3.5, but four or five decades ago. I was born in '82. My dad was 50 when he had me. My mom was 30. Which means that you done went through the 60s, you done went through the 70s. He was born in like 1932. You done went through the 60s and 70s, and then now you raising an 80s baby. You see what I'm saying? You're raising an 80s baby that's going to a school in 1997 where basically everybody um everybody in that's east and south to us. Like I say, I didn't grow. I grew up in the West Bank amongst my folks. You're going to a school where you have kids all throughout from South Minneapolis, and you actually have a situation where you have affiliations to a certain degree all throughout the school. And you're telling me that I can't defend myself. So of course I'm going to be a little resentful. You see what I'm saying? Of course I'm going to be a little bit resentful to a certain degree. So I had to kind of go through the school and feel like I'm walking on eggshells every 5 minutes. I had to go through the school and feel like I'm walking on eggshells every 5 minutes because of that. And doing to the teachers, that really don't work. They can remove the kids from the class or doing whatever they do, but that really don't work. So I said, okay, I had the kids kind of just go through ninth grade tortured. And so, yeah, when he got out of the house, I said, oh, the shackles is off me. The shackles is off me now. Now I can really put that work in. I started thinking back in like 7th and 8th grade. I said, so, um, any chance that I had, what I started to do is, if it wasn't someone getting checked, it was pause. That's what I started to do. You see what I'm saying? And so especially when it came to like 11th grade, 11th to 12th grade and all that, like 12th grade wasn't really, it was like a toss up. There wasn't really nothing too much going on. We was trying to just graduate. But like 11th, and that's the year, you're supposed to be serious about your school and your academics in 10th grade, but 11th and stuff, like those was a year, so outside of school, we started to kind of, I started kind of getting into, like, and those are the times, when, you're getting your clothes game together and stuff like that and all of that. So, 10th grade, I took a keyboarding class. That changed my life. Mr. Cormanick, he used to always have the toupee. Dude used to roast on his toupee all the time. But Mr. Cormanick, when I took 2 classes that changed my life. That was Mr. Cormanick's accounting class and his keyboarding class. And I learned about that home row. That changed my life. That's what got me my money out right now. That's what got me that paper. That's what got me kind of running around Minneapolis, burning mix CDs, fixing computer, all of that. That's what really, that was a game changer. I probably would have never went to IPR, none of that stuff. If I wouldn't have went to that keyboarding class, I might have still went to some of these places and got into the tech arena, but I don't know. I don't know what I probably would have did. I probably would have, but that was always something that I was, I was kind of techie. So, uh, yeah, man, good times though. Good times nonetheless. But yeah, 10th grade, keyboarding class, and I was skipping school a lot. I was skipping school a lot in 10th grade. So I had to take what they call a partnership class in 11th grade. But see, 11th grade, 11th grade was the year where things start kind of going up for me, built on confidence. 11th grade, now I'm gonna be honest, 9th grade was more gladiator, and I gotta ask that go about this, but 9th grade, correct me if I'm wrong, bro. 9th grade was more violent and active more than anything. 9th grade was just everybody was trying to get a name out, and you had all these cliques and stuff, and a lot of people didn't even go. Like I remember when I came to school, and they were right. There was a list. There was a list of all the kids that were going to school. You see what I'm saying? So there were some changes sometimes going into summer. Summer was, after 9th grade, now you're going into summer. So, you might be going to parties or you're doing all these different things during the summer and you coming back to school. But I had a mindset in the summertime that I'm putting in work 10th grade. That's what I was thinking in. I said, I'm putting these Mike Tysons on niggas. That was my whole soul goal coming out the summer. And I had a homie that was in Cedar Riverside. He was like, man, somebody done lit a fire under you. I said, yeah. I said, bro, I'm ready. I'm not accepting nothing. I said, because I've been cast to basically just accept. And I got my dad telling me, I said, man, I ain't doing none of that. At that point in time, I wasn't worried about going to juvenile. I wasn't worried. I said, yeah, it's going down as soon as I get back up into school. And I had a list. I had a list of all the people. I said that, if I hear them on that list, because they were reading off a list on all the going to certain classes or something like that. And I was just hoping. I'm standing in that list. There was several different people that was on that list. And I said, if I see these dudes on this list and I catch one look that looks left, I'm socking them right in front of the police and the teacher and everything. Yeah, we gonna get it all right in front of everybody. But none of them showed up. They didn't come back to that school no more. They might have got kicked out or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? So, I think in 10th grade, I was having issues with school. My mom had to come up to the school and talk to the teachers or something like that. So that could have been the reason, whatever, because I was so depressed. I'm just like, man, you got to let me defend myself. So I blamed them for a lot of that. You could have saved your son the trouble by just going ahead and let me whoop these niggas' ass, because most of these niggas I could have beat up. Most of them I could whoop their ass, but you're not letting me do it. So, that caused a lot of problem and self-esteem issues and stuff like that, because you're not letting me defend myself. And a lot of bullying that goes on in school today, that comes from that bullshit, that pacifist garbage. That don't work. So what I was able to do, this is how I got through 9th grade. What I started doing is I started, avoiding the lunch library. Or what I would do is I would go get my lunch, and then I would say, I'm going off to my cell. I treated it like jail. I'm going off to my cell. So I would go to the library. A lot of students didn't really want to be up in the library. And that's when I started messing with Netscape Navigator. I started doing research, and I started training myself how to use these applications and get more. I would go to the library every lunch period. What I would do is I would go get my lunch real quick. Sometimes they had Papa John's, they had stuff like that. I mean, I was kind of by myself a lot of the times. I don't really recall having a bunch of friends in 9th grade like that. I would sit by myself 90% of the time. And then what I would do is I would go to, I would get up and I would go to the library. And that's how I avoided people most of the time. You see what I'm saying? So I was able to do that. So I said, all right, because I knew that if it got into a situation where I had to get physical with somebody, I'm not feeling like I'm going to get no backing, no way. So I figure if I just avoid people altogether, then that'll work. So 10th grade afforded me, but then 10th grade, there was really no problems. I went through 10th grade just problemless. You see what I'm saying? So I took a couple of those classes. I used to skip school a lot and stuff, at one point. But then 10th grade, I took the partnership class, and 10th grade, or not 10th, but 11th grade. 11th grade is when I start working a Cub. Everybody worked a Cub. Everybody that went to South at one point worked at Cub. So I would push the carts. You see what I'm saying? So around that time, that's when I started building I think I took keyboarding and accounting, I think in 10th grade or maybe 11th. And I took the computer class likely in 11th grade as well. And a lot of the white kids were building their parts. So I started building the parts, or not building the parts. I was just kind of watching them build the parts. It was a web design / PC repair class. And that's when Mr. Ruff said, Derek, you need to go get a job, and stuff like that. In that class, there was this tall dude, and I think he got unalived over north. His name was Lorenzo. He had braids. He was real tall, talked real slow. He was in that class. All he did is sit around and play Unreal all day. And Mr. Ruff just kind of let him do it because he felt like he was kind of slow. You know what I'm saying? So, he was real tall, talked real slow. I think somebody unalived him over north. That's what I heard. I'm not sure. So remember, a lot of my classmates, when we got out of high school, a lot of them dudes got whacked. Quite a few of them dudes got whacked or shot or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Out of high school and dibbling and dabbling around over north and south. A lot of them dudes got taken out. A lot. We used to hear about a lot of situations where, like, you're like, man, he went to school. He was in my class. You know what I'm saying? That happened, man. That wasn't a surprise. That happened a lot. And a lot of that happened when I went full throttle in the street with selling the CDs and stuff like that. You go to different neighborhoods, you heard it. Oh man, this happened to so-and-so. Oh, this happened to so-and-so. Oh, there's a war going on over here. That stuff was full blown all the way from 2002. Really, I'll say 02, 03. I was hearing about that stuff from maybe 02, 03. I went to IPR, so I was in school some of that time. But then I stopped going to IPR and went back hustling. So that was 04, 03, 04, really 02, 03, a little bit. Really 04, 05. Around in that, when we were kind of moving around, going everywhere, that's when we kept hearing about our childhood friends and people going in high school that was getting drilled down on a regular damn basis. You'd always hear about something, and it'd always be close by. You just heard about it. Oh man, that happened right down the block or something like it would happen all the time. I mean, I'm talking about dude was letting folks have it out here. 04, 05, Stack Dough, man, let me know in the comments. Dudes was out here folks was getting got. Dudes was getting got out here on a regular basis. But see, with us just being the CD guys, I didn't really have to deal with too many situations. There was some stuff I had to deal with, but for the most part, I was able to kind of move and groove, and kind of do what I do for the most part. So, I just think that people just looked at us like, hey man, this is our music. You know what I'm saying? Don't shoot the music. Don't rob the music, man. I just think that was I just think that was just a thing where we were just able to, so, I was going to save this for another story. So maybe I'll kind of break some of these down. But now, I was going to IPR, and this should be a separate story, but I'll give you a little segue. I was going to IPR, and my homies that rap, I could see they weren't used to. They started bringing me to studios. I think I started first going to studios maybe 10th, 11th grade. Angel Beach and stuff like that. 32 West was later, but because that really brought their music quality up, going to 32 West right on Lindale. So that was kind of the beginning of them really bringing the upper echelon and the mixtape stuff and all of that kind of stuff. That was like I think that was around maybe 04, 05. Was it? Maybe a little bit before that, but maybe around about 04, 05. I'm thinking. So I was an avid archivist of their music. Whenever my homies was making music, I'm going to the shows, I'm downloading the CDs, I'm making a little mixtape. Sometimes I'll take a CD, I'll take one of their songs and throw it on to the mixtapes. You know what I'm saying? Like the mixtapes that I make the people, the commercial stuff, I'll throw a song on that joint. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm hearing the CDs, hopefully they might hear it and be like, who's this guy? But, when I went to IPR, I'm gonna be honest. They weren't used to seeing no big console like that. I might have been the first person to really bring them niggas to show them, hey man, this the shit they use to mix with Prince, master mix. They weren't used to no SSL consoles like that. Man, that shit down there $200 an hour. Folks wasn't really doing that. Even the D-boys weren't doing that. So I brought in one of my guys. He recorded his mixtape. I brought in Stack. I said, man, but me and him, we should have been on that big board. But we like to sit in that little room and then just make beats and do little stuff like that. So that was kind of our little, I didn't bring everybody in the studio. I didn't. So I really want to make beats, but I was better at the PC repair. So that's like a whole nother story. But I'll kind of brush on that a little bit. But yeah, like those formative years in was that 98, 99? Had to been 98, maybe 98, 99. 2001, I graduated. You see what I'm saying? So, when I graduated high school, I went to MCTC and seen what they were talking about. I'm like, man, I know more than, I don't think I need to go to this. And so I kind of just BS'd around for the next few years or whatnot till I finally landed in IPR, and, I might do a separate little story on that. I've already kind of done it a little bit, but, after that, 04, I don't remember much on 04. I was just kind of just running around, just hustling and stuff like that. And then 05, 06, I started to kind of get myself together. I started to kind of, figuring out, all right, I gotta be, and so I might have been 20, well, maybe 24, 23 or something like, I mean, I don't know how old we were. Maybe about 22, 23, 24, maybe close to 25. I don't even think we were 25. And then it was 07, I believe, that we opened the store. Me, Stack Door, and the other guy opened the store on 38th and Nicollet. But I don't even think we was open 9 months because we didn't go through the winter. I think we was open 6 months. 6, 7 months maybe. Yeah, I think it was like a summer thing almost. It felt longer. But I was working on the PCs then. And here's how I started working on the PCs. If that was 06, 07, no, that couldn't have been 07. No, maybe it was. Maybe I'm thinking it was 07 because I don't recall us being in the winter at all. That had to have been 07 because mid 07 I was transitioning as the shop was closing. I started my internship at the nonprofit. So that means I'm thinking in order to get the internship, I would have had to already went to the Urban League. So early, I'm thinking, because I was going over there in the cold. So it must have been January 2007. It was January to April 2007. They called it Digital Career Academy. That was at the Urban League. I'm going to do a story on that. So we just rounding up the timelines and stuff like that. I'm going to put little movies and stuff together. This might have less movies, but I was doing that. And after I was doing that, I did that for 4 months. I didn't get my A+ certification. There was a sister named Adria. She went and showed me VMware. I think I learned Fedora there, Linux, VirtualBox, where I could test apps and do all kind of stuff like that. I already knew how to wipe the computers and stuff, but I still, now around that time, 2007, that was a major changing point for me because remember, I had moved on Lake Street. So I think that was maybe late '06 I moved on Lake Street or whatever. I'm not sure. I think that was around that time. But I remember around, I think '04, maybe '05, '06, a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, I was in D building in the projects. I said, okay, this ain't gonna work. I worked at Sears in '06 from like June or July '06 to December '06. And I saved up the money and I got that job because I said, okay, me just hustling. I think I had the Duke too. I think I did around that time too. I think I had the MPC and the Duke. But I said, okay, I'm not going to go anywhere. And I was like, man, I'll just go back. I'll just keep on hustling. I ain't about to work no bullshit ass job for $8 an hour. But I said, if I quit now, I'm never going to finish anything. So I went ahead and I worked at, I worked and I kept hustling. I worked at Sears doing merchandise support. And at the end of the year, I enrolled in the Digital Career Academy. I think during the time when I was working at Sears, I was going downtown. I went to MCTC. I didn't like the program. I said, I know too much at that time to be sitting up in college for 2 years. I said, that ain't gonna work. I said, I'm gonna get in this damn field in less than 6 months, and which I did. So I went down. I checked out this place called Tech Skills. Went way, way out to France Avenue. I went up in there. I walked in there. The guy didn't act like he wanted to shake my hand or talk to me or whatever. And it was a program that the state was going to pay for. I said, no, that ain't going to work. Because basically it's like you go in there and just play with little bullshit lab emulations. And then the instructor be there half the time and all this kind of stuff. And I'm taking notes of all these things that a lot of the Minnesota IT instructors are doing, or these programs. A lot of these programs be little janky BS programs where they get grants and they enroll you. And as soon as you get in, they start doing little funny stuff like not supporting you and all that. So I'm taking note and all that. So when I started instructing my classes, I said, there ain't gonna be no situation where you can't, I don't care about y'all. I immediately, even before, man, folks was barely in the class and I was getting folks calls from recruiters and stuff like that. I was doing unprecedented stuff. They don't do that fresh out the gate. I'm talking about, I got folks working on their resumes the second week of class. We not playing no games. I'm trying to get y'all